Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, I wanted to point out that we have this eclipse. It's a partial solar eclipse that's happening over Russia today. Now, I'm actually recording this yesterday on the 24th, so if there's been like some big news or something, I don't know about it yet. I'm going to schedule this for tomorrow at 7 Central Time. But this just happened. I don't know how this came up. I do not remember how this came to my attention. But there's a partial solar eclipse that's primarily focused like right on Russia, like the heartland of Russia, I guess you could say. I would think that the heartland, I don't know, maybe they consider it over this way the heartland, but it seems like right over here, this is kind of like the equivalent of their heartland. I'm not sure. But whatever the case, it's pretty close to Moscow. In fact, let's take a look. Let me zoom in. No, not like that. Zoom in. Oh, I just saw Moscow. So Moscow is not in the dark area, but it's pretty close. And why do I think this is significant? Well, I don't know if I necessarily do. I just like to observe things, and I went here, and you can sort these eclipses by the decade. Okay, so you can look for whatever type of eclipses you want to look for, or you can just do all. All right, and then it shows you everything that's all the eclipses between the year 2020, within the year 2020 to 2029, and with all these different types of eclipses, both lunar, solar, partial, annular, everything. This seems to be the only one that is like directly on Russia. You have this one, a total lunar eclipse in 2025, but it includes a really large area. And that's the case with lunar eclipses. Solar eclipses are more local, I guess you could say. But I didn't see anything, at least in this decade, that highlights Russia in that way. So this is the one time between 2020 and 2029 that something like this is happening. Okay. And, well, I think that it probably is important. A lot of us here on the channel recognize that the solar eclipses that seem to correspond to each other, the Great American Eclipses, we had the one in 2017, which just so happened to go right over Independence, Missouri, as well as Adirondack, north of there, as well as far west. Okay, and I've noted in another video that if the path of totality for that eclipse had been even just a few miles north or south, it wouldn't have gone over all those church sites. I'm talking about the path of totality where you experience a full eclipse. Likewise, the one that's coming up in 2024 is coming this way, and it's going over all the important church sites in New York and Kirtland, Ohio. Okay, the first temple of this dispensation. It's going over Palmyra, the first time in this dispensation that Christ has appeared, and one of the very few, if not the only time that God the Father has actually appeared on the earth, except for maybe to Moses in the Pearl of Great Price. I think that's God the Father that he's speaking to. But these really important sites, okay, they're being crossed over by these eclipses. One has already taken place, 2017. The other one's coming up in 2024. And they cross right here in the heartland, specifically the southern tip of Illinois. So, I do think that eclipses are significant. And just look at the timing of this one. As we have this just incredibly unlikely, in my mind, up until this point, until it started, unlikely war between these two European countries. Something that I never thought that I would see. I really didn't think that they were going to do it. I was like, you know what? Yeah, he's like building up his troops and stuff along the border, but I don't think he's actually going to do it. And then he did. And the stakes are really high right now. The stakes are really high right now. This war started in February, okay? But interestingly, we kind of hit like a turning point in the war um, just this last week or two. If you'll remember, they decided to do the referendum votes, which was where Russia was going to say, okay, these 4 provinces, they're going to vote to decide if they want to stay with Ukraine or join Russia. And supposedly, uh, overwhelmingly, they voted to join Russia, and then Russia annexed those 4 oblasts or provinces of Ukraine. Now, the thing that caught my eye is that the voting started, I think it was on, let's see, it was for 5, yeah, I think it started on this Monday, on Rosh Hashanah of all days. And then it ended on Friday. And then the next day was General Conference, Saturday. And then we had the Sunday sessions the next day. And then 3 days after that is when the annexation, as far as um, Russia's legal system is concerned, when it was actually finalized, which was on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Hebrew calendar. And I have that article here if you want to see the date. It was on October 5th, right here. Okay. So all I'm saying is that it's a very interesting time for this very key event to be happening. The votes were done on Friday, and General Conference was right in between that period of when the votes were finalized and when the official annexation took place. Even though the rest of the world doesn't recognize it, this was, I think, a turning point in the war. Okay, because now Russia has said that. Let me go to my map here. Where is it? Right here. Russia has said that now they're treating these 4 provinces as Russia. Okay, just like Crimea before. It's down here, Crimea. They've said a number of things that they're going to treat it like it's Russia. They're going to take it as an attack on Russia as the war continues. One of the key things that's happening, okay, and sorry if this is a repeat from my last video where we were talking about the war. Crimea right here was taken in 2014. Okay, so that was history for a while. It was annexed illegally, viewed illegally by the rest of the world. Now, after that time, Russia was supporting these 2 regions over here, Luhansk and Donetsk. They were helping them try and separate from Ukraine. They recognized them as independent countries. Okay. And then the war started later. Okay. So this year, from 2014 all the way to 2022. And then the invasion happened. And so, of course, they were able to easily take these 2 provinces because those 2 provinces had already been at war with Ukraine. So that was taken care of. They also decided to include Zaporizhzhia, which is this one right here. And if you'll notice, the capital city of Zaporizhzhia is not in Russian control at the moment. The only one that Russia actually, during this invasion in 2022, the only city that they actually took, like capital city, I mean, was Kherson. And there's been this counteroffensive that's been going on for a few weeks now. And you can see these blue areas where Ukraine has taken back a lot of land. And they're actually getting really close, really, really close to taking Kherson. Okay. So if they were to take Kherson, the only main city that Russia has taken during this invasion, that would be like a pretty big defeat. Okay. And there's been all sorts of talk about what's going to happen when that occurs. In anticipation for that, for Ukrainian forces making their way to Kherson, Russia has evacuated. My understanding is that they have evacuated, they have attempted to evacuate the entire province. Okay. And they're trying to get people over here in the city to evacuate to the east side of the river. And both sides, both Russia and Ukraine, have been saying that this dam right here is going to get blown up. Russia has said Ukraine's going to attack they're going to attack the dam and then blame it on us. Ukraine has said no, Russia's going to do that and then blame it on us. So they're just blaming each other. Ukraine claims that there's already charges set on the dam, and if this dam is destroyed, it's gonna. I read an article. I don't have it up right now. I should have thought about that. But there's like 80 communities and towns along this river that are basically going to get annihilated, including Curzon. You know, maybe not total. I mean, I don't know, but it's going to suffer significant damage at the very least. And the article that I was reading was saying that it would be essentially just as bad as a nuclear bomb in terms of destruction. And the reason why the media is saying that Russia would do it is to help their retreat. You know, so it's harder for the Ukrainians to cross the river because it's going to be made much wider once the dam is burst. So anyway, the last I heard is that they've evacuated civilians as well as Russian officers to the east side of the river. And then I guess as Curzon starts to fall, the enlisted will probably follow suit, right? So it's not a certainty that the dam's going to be destroyed, but that's something that everybody's concerned about. There's another thing that Russia is saying right now, where they're saying that they think that Ukraine is going to detonate a dirty bomb, which is like a bomb where you include a bunch of radioactive material. You know, so it's a dirty bomb. It spreads radioactive material all over the place. They've been saying that, and then of course there's been all sorts of talk about using nuclear weapons. Okay. I want to show you something. I don't know if it was here. No, it was, well, okay, let me show you this. So this was just on the 23rd. So for you guys, it's 2 days ago. Russia's Shoigu, this is the defense minister. Russia's Shoigu warns of uncontrolled escalation in Ukraine conflict. Why? Well, the war's not going very good for Russia. Look at all the blue areas that Russia used to be in, all the way over here, all the way up here in the north, really close to Kyiv, really close to Kyiv. Okay, but they've lost a lot of ground. There's a lot of units that are like, there's a lot of troops that are deserting their post. There's been a lot of tanks that have been lost because the tank crews are abandoning their tanks, and then the Ukrainians are just snatching them up. So it's really bad, and Putin's in a really bad situation because as far as he's concerned and Russia's concerned, this is now Russia. And how do you go back on that? You know, it doesn't seem, I haven't seen any analysts say that it seems like they would go back and be like, oh, okay, just kidding. Yeah, we'll give it back. So you can see how this is a really bad situation. It's really, really bad. How does it stop? I read an entire article. It was a long, lengthy, detailed article, and the conclusion was no one knows what's going to happen. There's people that do think that he'll use a nuclear bomb. There's people that don't think that he'll use nuclear bombs. There's all sorts of things out there, but I think the consensus out of everything that I've seen is nobody knows. Nobody knows. But it's unlikely that Putin will just back down. Okay. Now he's been doing all sorts of like attacks on Ukrainian infrastructure, both with drones supplied by Iran, as well as missile strikes, like cruise missiles and stuff like that. You know. Um, okay. So anyway, let's get back to it. So he just said this, that he warns of uncontrolled escalation. And this is kind of like in the context of Curzon falling, by the way. Um, there was something here. Okay. This is from the Institute for the Study of War. They say Shoigu's claims likely do not portend Russian preparations to use non-strategic nuclear weapons in Ukraine either. But the Institute for the Study of War previously stated on September 30th that the Institute for the Study of War cannot forecast the point at which Putin would decide to use nuclear weapons. So they don't know. They don't know at what point he would decide to do it. And then look at this. Such a decision would be inherently personal, but Putin's stated red lines for nuclear weapon use have already been crossed in this war several times over without any Russian nuclear escalation. So you could see a situation where Russia is like, okay, this is our red line, and then it's crossed. And here's a red line, and then it's crossed. And here's a red line, and then it's crossed. And then Curzon is red line, and then it's crossed. And so maybe in Russia's mind, they're like, look, we have been beyond patient. We should have done this a long time ago, but we didn't. You know what I mean? And then with the whole thing with the dam, if that actually happens, no one's going to take responsibility, but Russia will be like, look what just happened. Look what you guys just did. So now um, we're within our rights. We have to do this because Ukraine has taken such drastic actions. And so you see why it's really dangerous right now. I would say this is probably the most, up until now, I think that this is the most dangerous point of the war, because I don't think the war has gone how he thought it was going to go. Ukraine has received a lot of support from the West with some key weapon systems that have really helped them out, specifically the HIMARS system provided by the United States. So going back here to our calendar, it's just like the time that we're in right now with that general conference that we just had, where President Nelson called on us to be the people of the second coming. Like seriously, with what Sister Nelson said to Alberta and British Columbia, that this general conference was a singular event. There had not. Well, I'm not going to. Okay, I should quote it as closely as possible. She said that they knew that just based on the number of attacks on this particular, like, in the run up to this particular conference. So this was a really important conference. He called on us to be the people of the second coming. He showed us a video of Christ coming down out of the sky to the Nephites. Elder Bednar told us about the invitation way in advance, and then the final reminder, the first day of the festivities. Okay. And this is happening at a time where Russia annexes those 4 regions. It's coming at a time when just weeks before the Queen of England died, right before President Nelson's birthday, where he became the oldest prophet and apostle of this dispensation. It comes after we have a huge explosion on the sun on the 5th of September. That's going to be studied for years to come. It comes after just so many things. The biggest earthquakes of the year that happened on the 10th, and then on the 19th, and then August 13th, we had that meteor that went over the Salt Lake metro area. And then earlier this year, we had the largest explosion ever recorded on Earth with that the Tonga underwater volcano that went off. And then exactly 1 week after President Nelson calls on us to be the people of the second coming, on the 9th, we have the largest explosion ever observed anywhere, okay, in space. It was a gamma ray burst. It's associated with essentially black holes. And I think the article was basically saying there's because of like a supernova, I think, but I could be wrong. And that happened on an interesting day. Somebody had pointed out that the day that we observed that, not to say that the explosion happened on that day, if everything with science is correct and you know things really are as far as they say that they are, then that explosion actually took place something like 1.9 billion years ago, but we didn't observe it until this day, the eve of Sukkot. And I don't know what time of day it was seen. If it was seen, if it was observed after sunset, then it would have been during Sukkot. The Sukkot is the Feast of Tabernacles, the Feast of Booths. Okay, it is the feast that represents the end of the harvest. This is the end. And sometimes I wonder if, and I'm not saying that it's going to happen this year, but whatever year it happens, sometimes I wonder if maybe the second coming wouldn't happen during winter, because you know, with the focus on feasts, well, no, sorry, with the focus on agriculture and harvesting, okay, you follow essentially the life of the sun throughout the year. It's like the year is born, the year is born, in spring, and then it matures, it becomes summer, then it becomes fall, and then in winter, that's when it ends. That's like when the year, the solar year, or like the year of harvest, however you want to think of it, that's when it's done. Nothing is happening in the winter. You're not doing any planting in the winter through normal methods, like traditional methods. So, um, anyway, that's just a side note. But I don't know. I look at this and I can't help but to think that this is interesting timing. After all those things that we just talked about, that list of things that I just rattled off, and now we have this partial eclipse that's centered over Russia. Like, are you kidding me? Um, I think we would do well. I think we would do well to pay attention to that, and look at the shape of this thing, because it's almost like um, the way that they depict it on here with these different shades. It's almost like this is the center, and then it's like radiating out this way, and look where it's radiating toward: Israel, Europe, the Middle East. That's an interesting thing to look at. Sorry, it's an interesting thing to look at, and coming at such a time as this, you know. Um, yeah, here's that gamma ray burst, the largest explosion. This is it. This picture is the largest explosion ever witnessed. The largest and the brightest. It's unbelievable. Here's the dirty bomb thing if you want to read about that, if you haven't heard about that yet. Some people think that it's that neither side would actually use it, but as you can see here, this is New York Times. Western officials warn Russia could use dirty bomb as a pretext. I guess the pretext being possibly nuclear bombs. Uh, let me just read another couple key things here from the Institute of the Study of War. Russian outlets continue to set conditions to blame Ukraine for the destruction of the Kakhovka hydroelectric power plant, which is the dam, which Russian forces will likely destroy to slow advancing Ukrainian forces. So, in this assessment, this is as of the 23rd, so a couple days ago for you guys. Russian sources widely discussed the construction of defensive positions in Kursk Oblast. Now, or Oblast, sorry. That is in Russia. Let me show you. Let's see. Kursk is right here. Okay. This was never a Ukrainian territory, and yet they're setting up defenses there. Okay. Defensive positions, as though Ukraine is going to attack. And I mean, I'm no expert. Maybe that's what's going to happen. That'd be weird, but maybe that's what'll happen. I know that there's been some strikes. I think specifically on Belgrade right here. Like there's been some missile strikes and stuff like that. But they're doing this thing where they want to set up these people's militias, not just in Ukraine, but also these oblasts around Ukraine, and even to Moscow. Moscow is part of that region. So, just I don't know, weird things are going on right now. You know, they're talking about possibly attacking from the north because Belarus is going to send some troops to participate in the war, and Belarus is not very far from Kyiv. And what I had read is that if they tried to attack from up here again, it would really spread Ukraine's forces thin if they were to try and do that as well as what they're currently doing. So, and then just a quick update on Iran. Okay, because we've been talking about Iran and how potentially it's hard for me to like consider the possibility, but I think there is actually a possibility that there might be a revolution there, um, possibly a color revolution. I think it could. We'll just have to see. But here are a couple of the key takeaways I wanted to read. Anti-regime protests occurred in at least 17 cities in 11 provinces. Iranian teachers continue to strike in solidarity with student protesters. I also read that there was like some kind of like hack on I don't know if it was like government systems, but they were like, unless you release prisoners, then we're gonna do whatever. So Iran, it doesn't look like this is going away anytime soon, and I think this is part of the bigger picture, like what I talked about in the other video with the revolutions, the color revolutions, and how it seems like maybe if that was really real, that Iran was supposed to be last, and well, here we are. um, yeah, so things are really really intense right now. Just all sorts of incredible things. We literally, after a prophet of God said to expect the mightiest manifestations of the Savior's power between now and when he comes again, we literally saw the largest explosion of all time. The biggest sign in the heavens that you could possibly expect, at least as far as explosions go. I don't think that's coincidence. Exactly 1 week after he said that. It's not coincidence. What else is going to happen? I don't know, but what I would recommend to you is go to the temple. If you're not baptized, get baptized. If you haven't been to the temple, I would recommend that you do it, in your own if it's appropriate for you, obviously. We go to the temple at certain times, but you know when the right time is. So just make sure to do it. And then if you've already been to the temple, go again. Why? Well, it's something that we should do anyway. We're trying to gather Israel on the other side of the veil. But especially in light of President Nelson's last talk, and the name of his last talk was Focus on the Temple, in that he said it's significant to note that the Savior chose to appear at his temple when he came to the Nephites. I think we should go to the temple. Okay. I went to the temple. I felt really good about it. I'm sure that there's special blessings that come along with that, including what they've been talking about so much recently, how when you go to the temple, the Lord gives his angels charge over you. So there may be additional protection that you can receive by going to the temple, on top of many other blessings. But I think that we should all do that now, especially right now. So yeah, okay, well that's going to be it for this one. Hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it, leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Also make sure to share it, and I'll talk to you guys later.